Hello, welcome back to BlenderSushi Live Noding. In this video, I'm going to continue exploring Armature and Bone in Blender using Animation Nodes add-on. In the previous video, I've shown you how you could access the Bone pose using Animation Nodes. Although I kind of mentioned that with Armatures, you can have like a multiple bones, and in the current version of Animation Nodes, we don't have nodes that's specifically dealing with bones inside Armature. So we need a way to access it either via the object attribute output, or we can use script node if we have multiple bones. Okay, let me quickly show you again what we got last time. We're gonna delete the box. Gonna switch to compositing. Actually, I don't need the Firefox, but it's okay. I'm gonna leave it there. Turn on animation nodes, and let's make a bones armature single bone, and then just center it. I'm gonna switch to edit mode. This time, I'm not gonna do any kind of parent-child for the bones. I'm just gonna have like a couple of bones. Okay, 4 bones. I'm gonna save it real quick. It's gonna be AN bones advanced 001. It's a little bit more advanced because we are dealing with multiple bones. Let's turn off always and turn on this tree. Okay, now again I have to mention that an armature can have multiple bones, and with bones we have edit mode and post mode, with edit mode being kind of like the initial transform position, location, and scaling for the bone, and the post bone itself, it's like an offset of the initial position. So either edit mode or post mode. We're not gonna use animation nodes to do editing of the bone yet, but we're gonna focus on the post mode. Once again, if you want to start animating the bones, we can simply use the object attribute nodes. So object attribute output, and let's say I'm gonna animate this this bone. I'm gonna grab the location, copy that path, just paste it there. You can see it's specifying the bone pose location, and then all we need to do is just grab the armature, and the node will understand, okay, we need a value for the bone position, so we can specify vector input. So that's simple enough, and as you can see, it's moving the objects in the post mode, which is good, that's the normal way you would animate bones in Blender. Back to edit mode, the bone will go back to initial position. In the object mode, we usually see the objects in the post mode, like the result of the transformations. Okay, now I haven't told you that we can actually do the baking of the bones using animation nodes. If I try using like a random vector, and I'm using the current frame plug into the seed, we know that the bones will be located randomly. It's kind of like an offset of the initial position. And in the previous video, this is exactly what I show you. We can do the same thing for all other bones, but we were doing it like this. We kind of just plug in the value, and then we specify the attribute for each bone. Currently, let me quickly check. Copy that path. So it's bone 1 and bone 2 and bone 3. And of course, at this point, the bones actually they all have the same data coming in from this random vector, so they are all animating in the same way. We kind of want to randomize it, and in the previous video I actually failed to do that, and that's become like my homework. And I did a little bit of research on the Blender Python, and then I kind of understand a little bit how to deal with these multiple bones. Before I go there with a Python scripting, I'm gonna show you that we can actually bake this bone very quickly, because eventually you will need to do bone baking. There is a keyframe set keyframes nodes here that can keyframe armature and bones, but with this bake to keyframes, I think it will normally keyframe all kind of attribute or object transform out. Basically anything that say output will be key. Let's try doing that. So bake to keyframe, and then you can see it's baking the bones. Let's stop this and then quickly check. See, for each bones we have this keyframe, and of course you can further do like animation editing, but we're not gonna do that. Just to show you that we can easily do the baking for bones. Let's clear the keyframes for now. Clear keyframe. So now we have the bones back. Let's zero them out. Okay, now let's delete all these and save again. Now I wanna kind of investigate the bones a little bit more using scripting, Python scripting, and Blender BPY. So by now we should know that we can access the armature as an object. This is what I figure out. So basically, BPY data objects armature. This is basically the same as doing this, selecting armature as an object, and then for the location, for example, we want to access the data path to the location. That's the data path. It's specifying the name of the bone, and then we can say, okay, for the bone name bone, we want to change the location. Okay, this is what we do in a Python. We do it in a this way. Let's say, okay, this is object armature, and then I want to get to that objects. Let me just do it like this. So this is an object, this is armature, object armature, and then we want to get to the bone, so we need to go to the pose bones and the bone name specifically, and then get to the attribute location, and then give it a value of maybe 500. Now the bone jumps 5 units in the x-axis. You see, it's this is exactly how Blender could access that bone location, and then how we could change the positions in the location XYZ. Knowing that we could kind of start building our script node. So I will delete this guy and create a script node. Create a new script node, and let's call this bone transform, or bones transform, because it's for multiple bone. The input is gonna be object, and let's create the node we're gonna grab the armature. We are creating the nodes this way so that maybe at some point we have like multiple armatures, and we know that for multiple armatures they can have different numbers of bones, and we kind of want to make it work for that kind of situations. So in this case we're just gonna deal with a single armature, and we know that it has a lot of bones underneath. So let's create our script node. Let's switch this to script. Click on the magnifying glass there, and then now we are inside the script node. Let's just activate always. Okay, let's write down object. So we know that our object is the armature. So object armature equal object. That's our armature right here. The objects being the variable. And then what we want to do, actually I need to have the Python console. Okay, we don't have the history. Object armature, and we know that it has pose and the bone. So we need access to the bone pose or the pose bone. Pose bones equal object armature dot pose dot bone. And for bone in pose bones, we kind of wanna perhaps randomize the location. So in this case we're just gonna do it like this. Bone location equal a value that we're gonna provide. Maybe in this case just vector list and then the num. I will explain this in a bit. Enumerate postpone. I think this is correct. Should work. I have to check. Vector list is not defined. Okay, let's create a vector list then. List index out of range. Okay, I think this should be working fine, but we haven't provided the vector list position for the bones, but this should be correct. So basically what happening at the moment is, if we use the Blender Python to do it, we are grabbing the data of object in the scene, and the name of object is armature, and object armature has post bones, and the post bones should be the number of the bones itself. So if we check the length of post bones, so in this script node of animation nodes, I'm basically doing the same thing. So get the armature objects, and then get the post bones, and then for each bone we want to do something to it, right? And then in this case we're just gonna do like a random transformation, yeah, whether it's in a position or locations or rotation or scaling of the bones. Okay, nothing too fancy yet. So it says, at the moment it says list index out of range. Let me turn off always. I think it's my computer is thinking. Turn off Firefox, slowing down my computer. So back to Blender. We want to randomize the position, but just kind of offsetting from the original bone edit. Okay, so let's give it a random vector then. In this case, we don't need to use loop yet, but we need to use loop to to generate random vector. So random vector, I'm using the older version of animation nodes 1.6. 1.7 actually can generate random vector, like multiple random vector easily, but in this case we're gonna use loop for this guy. So let's quickly create loop input. This is gonna generate random list of positions. Okay, plug into index into the seed. The output is gonna be a vector, and this is it. This is the node. How many of random vector do we need? It should be the same number of the bones. So in this case, we just manually specifying the number. Plug this into that this guy invokes bone transform, and you can see the bone is now transforming just like we want it. Let's double check. Okay, that's working properly. So if we give it like a 0, 0, 0, they are back into initial positions, and then if we give it like a random value, now they are kind of offset of the original position. Yeah, perfect. So that's working quite well. So instead of random vector, we can also use like the vector wiggle, just like in the previous video. Give it a frame number, plug into the evolution, seed into the index. Now it's generating a kind of a position that's kind of floating, like in the noise kind of field. Cool. So yeah, that's probably pretty much what I want to show you today. We can also if we go to edit mode of the bone and then maybe make like 12 bones. Now we have 12 bones, so we need to provide like 12 random positions. This is what we get. We can of course play around with the speed of the noise, maybe all kind of possibilities. They are all post bones, so you can you can basically switch to the. So I'll go back to the object mode, for example. Currently, okay, they're all over the place, but we know that in edit mode they're all back to the original positions. If I'm not wrong, with the bones we can actually kind of turn off the post bones so we can see the original positions. Let me quickly check. Deform, not there. Post library display. First kinematics, no. Rest bones. Okay, it's called post position and rest position. So we are in the rest position. If we profile like let's say like a grid, for example, and then I will rotate it in the Y 90 degree, scale it, and we want to kind of skin. If we want to skin this guy into the bones, let me turn on the wire. Now I'm selecting the objects and then selecting the armature and then Control P. It's gonna give automatic weighting. Now if we select the bones again and switch the post position, now we can see the bones is affecting this flat plane that we skin to it. If I turn off the amplitude and then just give it a little bit of value, You see that's it's not pretty exciting, but it's really quite interesting, because normally this is kind of like joints deforming of flat planes, and we are doing it procedurally. That's the main thing, and doing it like this is I think it's really powerful. You can then do things like um, wireframe maybe. Yeah, so if you have animation there, even though it's still pretty basics. Um, you can of course randomize the things like scale and rotations, because that's like the bones normal attributes. I haven't actually gone through and checked the bones constraint and things like that, but currently the bones, each of the bones they're kind of like free form. They're in 3D space, and each of the bone has initial transform, which is coming from the bone edit mode, bone edit position. That's actually the next thing I wanna touch. Even though it's not now, maybe for now I will just probably do the scale also, as well. Like let's randomize the scale of the bones. If we go inside these bones and go to the pose mode and then look at the scale in Y is making the bones kind of stretching out in and out. So that's one attribute we can play around with. The X and the Z also maybe, but for now just the Y. Let's do that real quick. We're gonna do the same thing. So we're gonna create another nodes. Actually, we're just gonna modify this script node. So this is a vector list for the position, which is this guy we are accessing via the index number. Let's create another input vector list as well, but we're gonna call it scale list. This should be called like position list. Maybe do that real quick. Position list, and let's rename this position list. Enter. Okay, still working. So bone rotation now can be controlled using rotation list. Have we provided rotation list yet? No, we haven't, so we need to create one. We could actually I cannot just duplicate this, and I wonder if I duplicate what's gonna happen. Oh yeah, I can. So this one, generate random scale list, but this with this random scale we want to do it like this, so it's clear. Random number or wiggle number wiggle. Plug in the index into the seed, and then evolution is the same as the frame. It's expecting vector output, so we create a combined vector node and plug this into the Y, because we want to make it stretching in and out, while the X and the Z can be 1. So yeah, that's what we need, and we just need to use the node now. Generate random scale list. Again, we need to make sure the number here to match the number of the bones. Plug into the scale list, and let's see if this is working. It's not working properly. It says rotation list is not defined. Okay, this is actually scale list, right? Not rotation. So this should be scale list. and double check now. Post bone has no attribute rotation, so this is actually scale. Now they're kind of doing what we planned it to do, except that the wiggle is actually giving the number between -1 and 1. Maybe we need to remap it. Map range like that. Oops, sorry, not in the position, but in the scale. Map range -1 to 1. Give a value between 0.7 and 2. Now they are behaving just like we wanted. Okay, that's yep, that's pretty cool. That's exactly what I want to show you today. The next thing I will want to investigate is the bone edit. So the bone edit is quite unusual, I think. Wait a minute, have I saved? I think I'm saving it to the wrong thing. Bones advanced demo. So the one. Switch to 3D view full and have a look. You see, that's actually really fast. If we don't use the node editor, that's actually really fast. This thing's making things slow somehow. Well, okay, let's get back to the bone and talk about bone editing a little bit. If we switch to the edit mode again, like I said, it's gonna go back to the default position, which is gonna be used for the skinning as well. So how do we actually do the editing for the bones? How do we edit the bones? So let's have a blank blend files and then save this as animation nodes bones edit. Currently I don't know how to do it yet, but I want to show it to you something. So bone armature, okay. If we go inside and go to edit mode, like I said, it has the head. This is the head, and then we have the tail. It's not always so obvious. The head, we can zero it out, so it's, let's see, okay, this is modifying the tail, obviously. That's modifying the head. If we select the both, we are modifying the head and the tail at the same time. So we can think of bones kind of like an edge with just two vertices. So that's how I think I should approach it. I have a feeling that editing bones will be perfect for something like Svechok, while to animate the bone itself is for animation nodes. But that's just my opinion. So let's see, this is the head. I want to zero it out. It's easy, just give it a 0, 0, 0. And this is the tail. If I give 0, 0, 0, we have the head and the tail on the same spot, which is bad. We don't want that, so give the 0, 0, 1 back to the tail. And of course we have things like roll and the radius that we can't really see. We have the enveloping, all kind of attributes that I think we should be able to control but not using the objects. This is like a special kind of data. This is it's an armature type. If I move the tail and check it out, yeah, this history doesn't give any kind of useful data. Switch to Python console and I will try. Okay, this is BPY data armature blah blah blah. If I hold like I think Command Option Control Shift and then copy and then paste it here, so we get bpy.data.armatures. Let's call this arm for armature, and then arm bones. We can get access to the bones, and here we can actually do editing of the head, for example, and then the tail. Yeah, currently the head is the tail is at 001. No, actually, let's go back to object mode and then check the tail. So this is the thing with the edit mode. We can only edit it when we are inside the edit mode. So I think that's kind of if you're working with a cube, for example, and then you need to go to edit mode and then you're editing the location like that. Maybe kind of similar, but I try to do it with this guy. For example, if I want to make the tail, which is currently at minus 0.2 blah blah blah, I want to make it back to 000, for example. If I'm just specifying it here, 001. I was expecting this guy to change, but it's not updating. So I don't know why. Going back to edit mode, it's still in the same position. So it looks like this doesn't work. I think the reason being is the data is kind of locked. We cannot change it that way. There must be another way to change it. So we need to know the Python code before we can use that code inside animation nodes. With the things like Q, let's say in edit mode, kind of transforming that vertices. I think we can actually use Python for that. But anyway, that's my next homework. Or if you know how to do it, if you know how to use BPY or Blender Python to kind of edit the bones and to generate more bones, please let me know in the comments. I will do some research as well, but really ideally I think Svechok is the best to do this kind of bone generation, and actually Blender actually Svechok add-on already able to do that if you are using the edge generator, and then you turn the edge into bones. It's actually basically that's I think kind of workflow that I want to try. Yeah, so I think I'll have a think, and then that's it for this video. If you have any kind of feedback or comments or suggestion, let me know please in the comments. Thanks again for tuning into this channel. I'll see you in the next